With the John Bolton accusations out there, we turn now to the Republican Senate and see what are they going to do about all this. And it turns out they're shaken. This is from Talking Points memo. Republican senators who have refused to allow witnesses in the Senate impeachment trial of President Donald Trump so far are reportedly shaken in their resolve after the New York Times published claims from an unpublished manuscript of Bolton's book, which contains explosive accounts of Trump's direct involvement in the quid pro quo. When they're shaken, has it ever meant anything? John McCain voted no. That was a cool moment. Justin Amash left the party. Other than that, how much has their shakenness mattered?
On the margins, it matters a little bit, but there's a little bit of a cottage industry of sort of wavering Republicans. Wavering Republicans all of a sudden become basically celebrities. I mean, who knew about Jeff Flake before he became a wavering Republican type of guy? Now he's a known guy. Mitt Romney has made his career lately about just being like the sort of anti-Trump Republican. But at the end of the day,
to the extent that that means anything.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, they support 97% of his agenda.
Yeah.
And maybe don't like that he's a gross, disgusting man, but other than that.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz, voted against him, when it came to the war powers in Iran. And that was about it. And he's paying a serious penalty for that. He was barred from being involved in the impeachment process and all that. So we'll see if he ever stands up again.
All it takes is one. And then one thing to happen where people on the Republican side will call you a rhino and kick you out of the party like they did with Justin Amash, or then praise you like they did with Murkowski and Collins, say, oh look, these guys bucked the party because they did it 4% of the time. So then you go, they establish this positioning somehow, and then they'll continue that news cycle going of, hey, remember, I'm that person who bucks the party 4% of the time, and the media laps it up. And then so that's a career move right there for them. They go, well, I'm the moderate, you guys, I'm the moderate, and it actually has nothing to do with policy, it has nothing to do with actually progressing the things that are going on.
If it comes in the form of an actual vote that matters, then I will cheer as well. If it's just a tweet, I don't support what he's doing right now, and that's it, and then you vote to give him a Supreme Court justice or something like that.
All that is worse.
Yeah, exactly.
If you tell me I don't support what he's doing and then vote in favor of what he's doing, which one is it?
It's Susan Collins, actually. But okay, so look, there was an interesting tweet I saw from Maggie Haberman, who tweeted, per sources, some GOP senators privately pushing White House for information on who administration had visibility into the manuscript over the last month. Senators feel blindsided. And I too think, who could have predicted that Donald Trump would turn on those who had defended him? Like seriously. I hate all of you, and I've been saying he's going to turn on you.
I'm amazed at how much
the most predictable thing.
Yeah, how much they don't realize it. It's happened over and over and over again. And again, I've talked about this isn't new. It's not even new within the last 3 years of his presidency. It's been his entire life. He's screwed over people from terms of business dealings to paying employees, all these things. He's done it since the beginning. That's his MO. That's how he operates. So when you come in and say, I'm gonna pledge my loyalty to Donald Trump, and then he doesn't pledge it back because this happened during the primaries in 2016, didn't it? When they said, oh, we're gonna vow to make sure we support whatever Republican nominee there is, and all 27 of them raise their hand, 26 out of 27, and Trump is like,
yeah.
He's telling you over and over again who he is, but they're surprised still.
So supposedly they're shaken, but let's go to some specific examples and see how shaken they are. So let's see, Mark Meadows said Republicans that break with Trump on impeachment may face, quote, repercussions.
Well, yeah, again, if you look at, it all comes down to this at the end of the day. If you look at Republican voters, they still support Trump overwhelmingly, mid 90% approval rating amongst Republicans. And at the end, the lesson that a lot of Republican politicians took after the Tea Party wave is that getting primaried is much worse than facing a tough Democrat in a general election. That they are more vulnerable from their right in a primary than they are in a general election against a Democrat. So as long as that's the reality, they're gonna waver and get shaken all they want, but they'll fall in line with his agenda. Again, 97%, maybe in one or two very kind of idiosyncratic places you might find a Republican who breaks with Trump, but at the end of the day, the vast majority of them, or the overwhelming majority of them, are gonna fall in line.
Yeah, well, perhaps maybe Utah is the place.
Yes.
Okay, so we got a quote from Mitt Romney. It's increasingly apparent it would be important to hear from John Bolton. I, of course, will make a final decision on witnesses after we've heard from not only the prosecution, but also the defense. But I think at this stage, it's pretty fair to say that John Bolton has a relevant testimony. I think it's increasingly likely that other Republicans will join those of us who think we should hear from John Bolton.
Yeah, I don't know that Mitt Romney really has his ear to the pulse of the rest of the Republican Party. I mean, he's famous for being not sort of the most in tune with the rest of the Republican Party type of guy. That's his whole brand, So this idea that he's going to find a bunch of Republicans to break, I don't know. I find Mitt Romney being a little overly ambitious here.
That's Mitt Romney answering the question because he has to right now, but stalling for time. He'd be like, hey, after this all happens, you guys ask me again. I'm gonna go back and get some more marching orders and see exactly how we should do this. Because by the way, you know who has been responding to this? This Bolton, the Bolton revelations through the excerpts from the book is Democrats, Democratic elected officials, liberals all over the place. None of these Republican senators, at least last I read, responding to the fact that these things are coming out. Because what they're doing is trying to huddle and figure out which way we're going to approach this next. Because we can't have any factions here.
So you say that, but what if I had a second Republican senator?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Susan Collins said the reports, quote, strengthen the case for witnesses and have prompted a number of conversations among my colleagues.
Yeah. Conversations about, hey, so I'm going to Subway. Do you want the BLT or do you want the turkey sandwich? It's all that. These are the conversations.
How many senators do they need?
4 to vote for witnesses, which doesn't necessarily even guarantee any particular witness.
Yeah.
But supposedly, anyway, like. It's almost too much that it's Susan Collins. It's like, hey everybody, look at me.
Absolutely.
I might be reasonable. And I saw a random comment. It was a quote from John Oliver, which means it's time for the Democrats' favorite game. Hope Susan Collins flips and be disappointed when she doesn't. It's America's most depressing game show. Yeah, like she's already had multiple chances to do the right thing, and when it mattered most, she didn't do it. She did what she thought, I guess, would keep her seat. Yeah. And she will probably continue to do that same thing.
And see how she's even with the vote of whether or not we're going to have before we got to the actual opening statements, the opening discussion about what was going to happen. Then there's also the worries. I'm like, well, I want to let you guys know that I'm still that centrist. It's to continue to let that one point in every once in a while to remind it, hey, I'm still wavering. I'm not sure. We don't need to hear that right now.
It speaks to a broader philosophical difference between Democrats and Republicans in that Democrats are constantly hoping for Republicans to do the right thing, right? That's their governing strategy. We'll just do something that makes them look so bad that some of them will have to do the right thing and defect to our side or something like that. Whereas Republicans have defined their entire governing strategy in how they can exercise power in very significant and violent ways without any Democratic support. And they do all kinds of things in order to do that, whether it's gerrymandering or whether it's stripping powers from governors that become Democrat, whatever. They do all kinds of things to be able to exercise power without having a single Democrat support them. Whereas Democrats are just constantly trying to exercise power to the extent that they do, because they don't often exercise power, but with only as if they can get Republicans on board. If not, they're not interested in exercising power.
A good illustration of that is the way that they're saying this is not, when it was still in the House, this is not a bipartisan hearing. No Republicans have jumped on board, therefore this Democratic, their whole case is null and void. No one's making the argument, hey, this is not a bipartisan thing because Republicans refuse to listen to the truth, obvious truth right in their faces. So the onus comes on Democrats to convince Republicans who've told you, you're not gonna convince me to come over to your side. So now it's Democrats' fault because of the stubbornness of a party, and the pressure never goes that way.
Yeah. TYT is all about challenging and disrupting the status quo, and so is Aspiration. Aspiration does not invest your money into fossil fuel businesses that harm our planet, such as pipelines and oil drilling. Instead, you'll be able to fight climate change with tools like AIM, the Aspiration Impact Measurement, and Planet Protection. They also don't hit you with outrageous fees for you to access your own money. You can even earn cash back and get free ATM uses up to 5 times a month. Head to aspiration.com/TYT to learn more. For a limited time, get 30 days of free TYT membership when you sign up.